So we did, as I was saying earlier, Women in Product and Spark. So my name is Malti, and I'm the CEO and founder at Spark Prod Consulting, which is basically a boutique consulting firm. And I basically work with startups and enterprises in terms of upskilling, and of course, work with startups to help with their product strategy. So I work as a fractional CPO. Apart from that, as I already said, I do my own podcast, and I'm also a professor of practice at a couple of B schools. Aniket and Swati, would you like to just quickly introduce yourself?
Go ahead, Swati, first. Yeah.
Okay. So hey everyone, my name is Swati Avasthi. I'm the founder of Women in Product India. Malti and I, we got to talk. We've been talking for a while, and then obviously two very women-led and women-centric communities, both of us are running. So it made sense to join hands. And obviously both these communities are focused on everything product and startup. And then Aniket joined us very graciously to bring this workshop together. Excited about it. And my past experience obviously has been in product. I've worked my very global experience, worked in the US with Dell, moved to UK, and now I'm in India building this community and working on my startup ideas. Over to you, Aniket.
Thank you. Yeah, hey everyone. This is Aniket Chabbra. I have around 14 years of experience, primarily into product management, but I was a data scientist as well, initial couple of years of my career. So yeah, so Malti and I, as Malti mentioned, so one is last year, we started this AI product management, series in a way. So we have been connecting on and off on topics. Also, I worked with Malti indirectly in PayPal as well. So I was part of the similar adjacent team there. But overall, I have around 14 years of experience, currently working as a director of product at Monite Technology in the Fintech domain. And yeah, I have worked a couple of organizations like Fidelity Investments, PayPal, ASAP, etc. So that's about me. So looking forward to working with you all.
Yep. Thank you, Aniket, and thanks, Swati. So guys, without delaying, I know all of us are here to talk about today about the agentic AI, especially last week when we were doing the AMA session for this workshop. Few folks were asking that how do we even start determining that what is the use cases which are needed? How do we determine that for what use cases agentic AI is needed? So that's where this whole idea of doing this masterclass stemmed. And we also thought this could be a good opportunity for us to just introduce the course that we are launching. So this is the course which we are launching in April. It's on April 19th and 20th, going to be in person in Bangalore for 2 days. And exactly as 3 of us introduced, we are going to be the instructors for the course. Good thing is this is going to be a small cohort for about 30 people, and the seats are filling fast. But we just wanted to have this small gesture from our side where we said that folks who sign up by tomorrow, we are offering a small discount for that. So the course, which is originally priced at 16,999, will be available for 14,999. And this QR code, you can scan it. This is available. This link will be active only till tomorrow night. I will also share this link in the chat, which you can use and for the payments. What does the workshop entails? So the workshop is going to be there are certain foundational aspects that we cover where we are going to be doing an introduction for what is AI, the life cycle, product development life cycle for an AI product. We are going to refer to a few use cases. And one thing which we definitely want to do is that we want to do a product teardown of an AI product, agentic AI product, to say that how do we identify the need? How do we decide what kind of technology is needed, what model is needed? So that is one thing that we will be doing demo. And the next very important thing, especially as product managers, while we need to understand how the technology works, the business aspect is something which is very, very critical. So that is something which we are constantly, trying to pepper it around all the sessions throughout the 2 days. This is going to be about 8 to 9 hours of session, very, very hands-on, very, very I would say chatty, and where we would like everybody to kind of pitch in, share their experiences, share the use cases. So we would look forward folks to come up with their use cases that we could discuss during the class or during the lunch hours. So apart from that, we are going to look at that how does one measure the ROI? We are going to look at certain agentic AI products, including along with the RAG. And today you will see Aniket is going to talk a little bit more around that. Yeah. And of course, I think in the last few months, prototyping with AI, with tools like Cursor and Versal, this has kind of taken the community by storm. So we will be also using one of those tools in order to give some hands-on exposure to how to build your working prototypes. Explainability, building the user experience for AI products is another very tricky area for product managers. So there will be some aspects that we will be covering that. There will be tons of resources and tools that we will be covering that could be like a takeaway. Just one call out, beyond the product, the training cost, there might be some small amount of cost which will be involved in order to incur for your open AI keys, as well as we are also trying to see if we can get credits for certain prototyping tool, but that might come as an additional, maybe up to 500 to 800 rupees of additional cost that the participants needs to be aware of. Yeah. I would say we can probably take up the questions probably in the second half of the session, because I don't want everybody to keep waiting to get started. What is the main agenda for today? But please keep sharing your questions in the chat, and Swati and I and Aniket will try to answer those questions. But we will probably take last 15 minutes for the questions for the course. Yeah. Okay, without any ado, and this was the link for the session, that Radhika's session that we were referring to. This is my podcast channel, and you could look for this recorded off session over there. All right, so that is what I had, and I'm going to stop sharing. And Aniket, over to you.
Yeah, sure. I'm sharing my screen. Let me know if you guys can see.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah. Okay, so yeah, so a lot of information is available on agentic AI. So I don't want to sound repetitive here. So, but overall idea is that so far we have been talking about automation, or let's say working the task like which are repetitive, right? How can we automate? We have been using tools like RPAs and others. Um, the era that has changed after this AI, or you can say especially the large language models, when they got introduced in 2022 formally, like as an API, I would say, is basically the agentic AI, right? So the idea here is that in just one liner, you're giving the power, or you can say authority, to LLMs to take the decisions on your behalf. So you're building a framework here, a tool here, you can say, which is taking the decisions, taking the actions, or doing the actions on your behalf. Now it's up to you. You want to give the full control or authority, which means that, let's say, it's the decision that it has taken, the LLM, right? Uh, um, Goes to the end, or you want to be part of the decision process or decisioning layer process, which is human in the loop, process that we talk about. So the idea is that an agentic AI is where you build a framework or a tool which is taking the autonomous, or which is taking the decisions autonomously, using the data, using the information that it has, that you pass, right, via the LLM. So that's what the agentic AI, means in a nutshell. So why do we do that? Of course, like one, of course, automation. We have been doing automation so far, but the automation that we have been doing is mostly on the deterministic side. We had rules, we had processes which were like completely repetitive, and we have been automating them for a long time. Automation is not new. The main thing is that is where I think the LLMs, or especially the agents, are able to add value, is the stochastic part or probabilistic part, where you need so far where humans were required. So human intelligence, was required to take those decisions. Now you're transferring that human intelligence to an artificial intelligence tool, which is the agent that you are talking about here. And agent is capable in such a way that it can take decisions looking at the data, history, context. So what information that you have gathered, let's say in a knowledge form, you pass it to this agent, and that agent is now taking decisions along with you, right? Again, it can take decision independent of you as well, but let's say right now we are not doing that because they're not 100% accurate. But the idea is they're doing along with you, giving you a lot of information, insight, summary, output. Then you can take your call. So that's what agent, uh, um, brings to the table. And That is the efficiency, right? The productivity that we talk about, the efficiency, because a lot of things that we do, like writing codes, let's say, right, reaching out to customer support and other stuff, a lot of stuff goes like, again, they are repetitive. The reason that we have not been able to automate so far is because a lot of human decision, like human layering, is required, right? That process is getting automated, by using these agents or LLMs, we can say, and that is what the productivity efficiency part that comes along with agentic AI. Okay, so the key components is something that that agentic AI or agent, these agents bring is one, autonomy. They are autonomous, which means they can take decisions, as I mentioned. They can plan, right? Like, for example, like whatever tool that you're building, that can plan the way humans are planning. And they of course use certain tools, right? So certain frameworks they use, which we are one of the framework we're going to talk about today. They use that, and using that tool, they actually take the decisions. And so tool uses the planning, the process, and autonomous automation is a part of that agent that we build. So today I'll take an example of an agent, right, that is taking we are solving let's say a use case there. It is taking all these three components and giving us an output, which we have been doing so far, let's say manually, or like maybe some of the part we've already automated in that. But the idea is that a lot of decisions we do take manually using that use case. Okay, so that is the definition of agentic AI. Now let's understand, like in our day-to-day work, like what is the mental model that we use to identify these use cases? Like what do we need to look at in terms of criteria or parameters, so that we can decide whether it is actually, we need the AI agent for some process or not, right? So then first is, of course, like from the automation angle, repeatability, right? Is the task that you're doing at your work is repetitive in nature? If it is repetitive in nature, like what frequency are you doing that task? So you can calculate the frequency. It could be daily, it could be, let's say, hourly, or it could be weekly, monthly, etc. You can look at the repeatability. That is a common thing that we do in the automation also, right? Second is time consuming. How much effort and time is required to complete the task, right? So it could be highly time consuming. Sometimes it is not that time consuming, but there's a dependency on that particular task. Okay, one or two people can do that because they have the knowledge, right? So in a lot of processes, what happens is only like we look at the time as a criteria, but dependency should also be a criteria, right? So maybe it's very like a quick thing to do or quick job to be done, but the idea is that, but there is a dependency. If the person is not available, the human is not available, the task is pending, right? So that should not happen. So time consumption plus the effort should be calculated, should be looked at in any process that you're doing. The third part is that is the prone to human errors. So what happens is a lot of tasks that we do, especially humans, right? There is a chance to make a mistake, right? So there is definitely, like if I compare myself to a machine, so machine will definitely have over the period of time less errors than me in the same process. In the same task, if I do a regular basis, I'll make more mistakes than machines. There are chances, right? So then, is it prone to human errors? Yes, there is a possibility. Then we move forward to the next step. Then the idea is that now these LLMs are based on one important component is the data. So we need to look at like what information, what data is available to us, right? Is the data relevant, right, for this model or for this LLM to be used? So now again, we have been hearing this a lot, that LLMs are not working. There is a pre-training process, there's a post-training process. So they are actually, the LLMs are data quality hungry, not only data quantity hungry, right? So of course, like the more data you add, the more context it will have, but it'll actually we'll see the significant improvement as we add more quality data. So this is where I think the main, you can see the differentiator comes into picture when you identify an agentic AI use case. Like what information that is available to you, is the information qualitative enough for the LLMs, for the agents to take an action, right? Then when you say, okay, relevant data available, then you look at like, is the process, consistent, repeatable, as I said. Then it's process driven, right? There is no human intelligence required. You go via a traditional path of, let's say, RPAs, and then the typical automation that we build is coding automation that we can do, and then we can automate that process. This becomes deterministic path. Otherwise, if the data is relevant, is a human, prone to human errors, time consuming, repeatable, then it requires human intelligence, especially in the data interpretability, because data can change every time, right? Then it falls in the AI agent use case, or stochastic or probabilistic use case, where you might need an agent to help you here to automate the whole process, right? So happy to answer any question on this mental model. If you please pass the question in the chat, we'll take it later. But that's the mental model, the process that you follow. So rest is basically you estimate the benefits here, or the cost and benefit analysis that we do as a PM, right? But this is the flow that we start from, and then discuss it further, like how we can dig deeper and then identify the exact use case, and etc. So on and so forth, right? So then the idea is that how do you build those frameworks? Then comes like, okay, let's say we identify the use case, then what are the tools that we need, right? So again, that depends on the task. So there are two types of tools, I would say, or frameworks that we use in the current world, right? I mean, the field is changing day by day. Like every day we see new tool, new program that is coming. But the idea is fundamentally there are two things that we look for. One, it could be a framework which is, let's say, no code, low code frameworks, tools like N8N, if you've heard about that, LangGraph, right? Or AutoGPT, which are basically not going at the code level, giving you a layer, right, on top of the coding frameworks, so that what you can do is a non-technical person can play with that more like a menu-driven tools. It provides you the access. You can always design your agent in such a way. More details we'll be definitely covering in the course, like how does it work, exactly how you can build an agent end to end, for example, if any task that is there. But the idea is these are the low code, no code frameworks that we use to design these agents, right? So developers, engineers do that. Then one level deeper, which is also like I'm going to talk about in the demo today as well, is the framework which are sometimes we need to design the agent a little bit at a lower a level, in the sense that we go little into coding, explain the use cases using the frameworks like LangChain, which is, again, you can see we can use that to orchestrate the LLMs, right? Those are I'll show you the how we can call different tools using this LangChain framework. So LangChain is a framework which you can use it for calling different tools that you have in the system what you want to call. But the idea is that gives you a flexibility to add as many tools as you can in the framework itself. So I'll show you that in the next slide. How does it work? But that's the two framework that industry currently follows. Of course, there are a lot of tools are coming on top of it, but they're all again on the similar lines. Like one is a lower level framework where you go to the coding level, design your agent, build your agent, launch it, develop, deploy it. Or one is that you could use low code, no code kind of tools, frameworks, which you can use to design your agents or or the LLMs. Now, as I said, LangChain, so you can see here, so you have an LLM somewhere, you have a memory data that is coming from somewhere, like memory database, DB. You have a prompt, let's say you have a couple of prompts, stored somewhere in the prompt templates, and you have, let's say, any other agent also you can call. So all of these are separate tools. I'm calling these as one, tool two, tool three, tool four, let's say. All of these are combined in a chain, right? So as the name only says, like LangChain. So it's like whenever needed, it is calling the required LLM. Whenever needed, it's calling the required memory, referring to the memory, referring to the prompt, referring to another agent, and then put this into a framework, combine them, and then whatever the objective that we have, it actually provides the response. So for example, if it's a question answering over the documents, it will provide that. If I have to generate a summary, it will provide the summary. In a chatbot, it will work, based on the query and the response, so on and so forth. So this is the high-level idea of LangChain. Again, we're not going detail because we don't have time on this. We'll definitely cover that in our course, like how exactly this works. But the idea is that this is how you build a framework. So this is a typical architecture where we start thinking about designing the agents based on the use case that we have. Okay.
Aniket, maybe we can take one or two questions.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
You can't see the questions. Yeah. Can you please ask the question?
So far, there were only one question, which was around the demo, which I already answered from Vedula. Then the other question was the tools and frameworks which we talked about, LangGraph and LangChain, are open source.
Yes. So LangChain is open source. LangGraph is like not fully open source. I would say semi-open source. There is a licensing version that's also available, like N8 and LangGraph. But you can design, you can self-host it. I mean, in an open source way. So they are semi-open source, but yes, they are available for you to play. And then when you go for the deployment, you can take the license version of them. But
Yeah.
LangChain is, yes, open source,
Right.
fully open source.
And I think Bhagwati had a question, right? Was it Bhagwati?
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead. You need to unmute yourself, Bhagwati.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Hello.
We can hear you. I think I'll ask her to put it in the chat. In the interim, Sulbi, I think you had a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to understand about data quality. So, how do we determine that this is now the quality that we can release the model with? Because it's kind of very subjective, right? You are never 100% sure of that data quality is excellent now. So, how do we make that trade-off that this is enough and now we can go ahead?
Yeah, no, that's actually that's a good question also. So there is one way which industry follows, right? There are couple of other ways also. It depends on the context that we are solving the problem. So we decide the data quality based on the problem statement, like how much correlation that exists in the data and the objective that you have, right? So for example, let's say in a generation task, right? You're doing a marketing content you want to generate, right? What is the objective that you have? That's one. Let's say you want to curate some content specific to your marketing campaign, right? So you have a history of information or the campaigns that you've generated so far, and now you ask LLM prompt properly to get the data, to get the outcome. Now LLM provides you certain outcome of that marketing campaign, the content, right? Now you have historically seen that what campaigns have been successful versus what campaign content that LLM has generated. So the best way to determine the quality is that you work as a human annotator and then try to see like how much difference there is, and take couple of sample use cases of the content that you have done in the past, and only pass those to the LLM as a context. Now, number is hard to tell, depends on the use case that you're trying to solve, right? Let's say you're 10 use cases, 10 types of, let's say, campaign you're designing, then technically it will require, let's say, maybe 100 each, records for each of the campaigns. So then technically it becomes, let's say, 100 cross 10, 1,000, records of data, or 1,000 documents, for example, right? So that depends, like, so one is that you compare the outcome of the LLM and the outcome of the previous campaign, that is a successful campaign. That is your success criteria for this generation part. That becomes your objective as well as success criteria. And then what you do is you look at, like, okay, at what level, if I do this experiment continuously, my LLM is able to generate the quality content based on the campaign that I had. So the difference between the generated content and the content that you have, you can call it, let's say, context, is lesser. So there is a generation process and there is a context. The idea is that difference between the generation and the context will be as less as possible. So that determines the quality. And then what happens is, it can very well happen that in the beginning you don't have the quality content. That's fine. There's a feedback loop process. LLM keeps the context, the knowledge that you build on top of it. For example, this one, let's say the memory part, right? This section here. So then you always make sure that this memory or this context is passed to the next time whenever the LLM is called. And maybe edit your prompt. Okay, please refer to the memory, right? If this use case is present there. So then automatically what happens is, whenever you call this LLMs or agent like multiple times, it is incorporating the feedback loop that you have passed and then improvising the outcome every time, or the response every time, every next time, then it is generating, whenever it is generating the outcome. So that's iterative process. It takes a couple of iterations for you to come to the quality level of the data. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yeah. This helps. Thank you.
Okay. I think let's proceed, Aniket.
Okay.
I think we will take questions after the demo.
Sure. So I'll not go into details of here because, again, this is available information, but high level I'll definitely cover. So So we were talking about the mental model, right? So there were a few use cases. So whenever we have a, when we say fixed automation agent or fixed automation, again, you have it's like a deterministic example, right? So you have if else condition, and you can fairly automate the process with the rule engine that you have. Probably there you don't need an LLM because unnecessary LLM call is not required. A simple code of if else logic or predefined business logic can actually work. And then the idea is that you need to create a business decision layer on top of the rule that you have. That can be a front end, like maybe a UI, or let's say in the back end, wherever, like how do you want to respond, send the output. But there's a pretty much like fixed automation process that we have been following. That's a part of workflow we have been using so far. That still exists. It will exist in future also. They're not going to go away because unnecessary LLM calls are not required. Then you have now, which we were discussing, right? So wherever we need a human intelligence layer or data interpretability or information interpretability, like the marketing campaign content, right? Now you need to evaluate like how good at it is, right? There, the idea is that you can actually pass the LLM, right? The information to the LLM, the input data to the LLM, and then LLM gives you certain output. Based on the output, if you want, you can generate a rule engine or let's say a business logic on top of it if this gives. Or the way to evaluate that is that people, what they do is whenever the LLM generates the output, right, they, as I said, that they we can actually evaluate manually for a couple of iterations and generate a feedback loop process, which it takes the input every time again with the context, with the enhanced context, and gives you the output. So over the period of time, it becomes better. You start with a, let's say, less accurate or inconsistent, maybe agent for the time to start, and then it automatically becomes smarter over the period of time. But that's an LLM here. The reason remains the same, that you need more interpretability on the data. You need to generate content on top of the data, insights on top of the data, which is currently humans are doing. Now LLMs can do. The reason is because these tasks are also repetitive, right? These are LLM-enhanced workflow. Then comes the RAG agent. So here you can see RAG agent is basically the difference between the previous agent and this, let's say, RAG agent is, both of these are LLM based, first of all. The difference between them is RAG is needed, RAG is called Retrieval-Augmented Generation. So there are three components here: retrieval, augmented, and generation. The generation part is the LLM generation, which means generating the content, generating the output. Augmented and the retrieval part is basically where you retrieve the information and augment the query that you have. So retrieval is let's say you have a scenario where you want the LLM to provide factual outcomes. So for example, Eiffel Tower is situated in Paris, right? And that's a factual answer, right? So if you ask LLM, mostly the way they are trained, they will give the answer. So in case if it happens, let's say, for example, 98% of the times, the LLM is trained on a data where the Eiffel Tower is situated in Paris. So that's 98% of the time. But there are few, information or content that is available on internet that is saying 2% of the time that Eiffel Tower is not situated in Paris, somewhere else, any other city of France, let's say, right? So it can very well happen that 2 out of 100 queries, you might get an outcome, which is the Eiffel Tower. When you ask a query, you may be that unlucky person that who is getting the 2% of the answer that, okay, Paris is not, Eiffel Tower is not in Paris. So then what happens here is that LLM are right because there is a 2% probability on the data they are trained upon, right? But the answer is not correct. The answer is not factual. It's incorrect answer. How do you make it factual? So you make sure that because they are probability based, there is a chance that they can misrepresent the information. So then what you do is you add a retrieval layer in which you curate a knowledge base that you pass to these agents, to the LLMs. And then always, whenever the user asks a query, you first check that, okay, look at this information here, where you may be a table that contains, okay, Eiffel Tower, location, Paris. And that table is being referred every time before the query is sent to the LLM. So technically what you're doing is your input query first goes to that knowledge base, gets the information from that knowledge base, retrieve the information. That's why it's called retrieval. That retrieved information becomes the part of your query, which is the question, okay, where is the Eiffel Tower situated? And then you send to the LLM to generate the answer, and LLM gives you the output. And that by this way, you make sure that LLM provides you always factual outcomes. So then LLM will add its own generation part, like, okay, this written this, it was built in that time, so and so, other information that it can generate from its own side, from from its own side. But the idea is that this is to make your agent more grounded, right? It's called grounded intelligence or factual answer. So that's where, so wherever, especially what are the use cases? Chatbots, right? So any customer service, support chatbot are RAG based primarily, because every company has its own policies, right? To provide some customer service. Some provide more, like some companies are more customer centric, versus less customer centric, so on and so forth. So they can always design their chatbots using the RAG, intelligence, and it actually enhances both, the outcome, the accuracy and consistency of the overall response that is going to the customers. Yeah, but then RAG process, you have to maintain it always, like you have to keep maintaining it. It's a maintenance part. So knowledge retrieval, you can see. So, but as if we see last 6 months of progress, RAGs are also becoming less and less. Now there is a new concept called CAG, which is Cache-Augmented Generation, which is now, rather than maintaining a knowledge base, you maintain a large cache, and that you use, whenever, because the models are becoming bigger, the context, of the models are becoming bigger. So those things are coming, but the idea is to generate more factual answer. We use the RAG agent. I hope that justifies the definition. Any question on these, please ask. I'll take it to the, as Malti said, end of the session. Let's move to quickly the case study now. How much time we have? Malti, we have 15 minutes, right? We can do the case study in 15
Yeah,
minutes.
we have 15 minutes. Let's get into the demo. Last 10 minutes we will keep for Q&A.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so here what have we done is we have actually built an agent, a quick one. Again, the idea is not going to detail because that's a part of the course. But the idea here is that there is a problem statement where, let's say, we have a transactions or payment volume data, transaction data, and now that fintech, like every fintech, process, when whoever is processing the transactions, the volume of the transaction can be large, right? And a lot of times, right, the transactions can be anomalous, in the sense that there could be fraudulent transactions, there could be errors in the transactions, right? Unexpected, some activity spikes can happen on the transaction volume. And especially this happens when you process the data real time. A lot of issues can come, especially in the transaction level data. So then what happens is that, let's say you want to act quickly, right, on that data. So how do you do that, right? So one is that we build anomaly detection models. We have been building AI/ML models in anomaly detection, where the model works in the, in a way like whenever the transaction comes, it provides you the output. But then what happens is that, it now here the process of building the AI/ML model is that a human again takes the large data, historical data, trains the model, build the model, and then you generate analysis on top of the model and share with the stakeholders. Okay, this is what the anomaly is, these are the issues that we found out, these are the triggers that got generated. We share with the engineering teams, and they take the actions on top of it, right? So the question is then, can we build an AI agent for that, and how AI agent would add value on top of the existing process that we follow, right? So one, again, will follow our mental model, like why do we need an agent? So think from those points. Like one is, of course, it requires manual efforts, a lot of times inefficiencies, because right now you have to build a model, you have to set up the process, right? So to identify the anomalies, and there are a lot of inefficiencies are possible, right? So there could be, again, human errors, or errors can happen, which means undetected issues can come. And then a lot of times this happens, delayed insights, right? Even if you, let's say, develop a model, deploy a model, for example, there could be, let's say, insight level delays can happen. Like you can actually trigger that, but insights can be, like we might need insight faster than actually we're getting the insights on the data that we have, right? So follow that, these are the like issues that anomaly detection like we need for. And then how do we identify, evaluate the problem, whether it fits in the agentic AI? As I said, repeatability, yes, there is a repeatability. We, like, millions of transactions happen in a day or in an hour, depends upon the business size that you have. It's frequent. There is a data availability, transaction data. There is a dependency, and there could be errors. As I said, it is time consuming sometimes. Sometimes it is not. Sometimes it is time consuming. If it's a simple anomaly, it is not time consuming. But it's like, let's say, complex data, the complexity is involved. It can be time consuming also to detect anomalies. And we have been reactive so far, in detecting anomalies. It's not a new a scenario there, right? So then how an agent solve the problem? One, again, it's automated, right? So automation comes into picture with the data. The second is that now you are actually calling the LLMs to detect the anomaly based on their own logic. You're not actually defining any logic specifically. You can do that, but you can actually, once the LLMs becoming actually smarter, you tell them, okay, this is the data. You find out, the anomaly in this data based on your study, what is these what are these anomalies. So then that's how AI agent will be solving the problem in future, right? That's where the level we want to go. Like complete. So here today, what we do, like we take the decision, we look at the data, we identify, okay, this is the logic. If this, let's say there's an algorithm called Z-score. The Z-score is greater than 0 0.2, 0 0.3, then it's an anomaly. Otherwise, it is not, right? So like that logic, let's say we have built in inside. But then how AI agent will do is, now you don't have to define that logic. LLM should do it. It should come up the logic on its own based on the data that has received, the context it has received, the problem statement has received, and then take the action. Take the action and provide recommendation to us. So that's the use case of the agentic AI, right? And that's how industry is using them. Like, for example, we have seen recently the article came from ServiceNow. They have used this agentic AI, the AI agents in their customer service, IT support, HR processes, a lot of places, and they saved like a huge cost there, which is could be productivity, right? In terms of the measurement, right? Productivity has increased by 20%, you can see here. Or it could be, let's say, customer support roles or customer support, tools that they have now saved because of the AI agents. Okay, so I will now move to the agent. So what I have done is very high level. Again, I'll tell you, this will be in more detail once we go into the course. But the idea here is, this is a VS Code environment. If people are not familiar with the coding environment, that's totally okay. The idea is to give you a high level overview, and then you can always, like, this is not difficult to learn, honestly. But the idea is to use LangChain framework and build an anomaly detection AI agent, right? Which can detect anomalies on its own. Though I have provided the logic here inside, but we can build it without logic also. But the idea is that here, so what this whole, you can see the screen is doing is, this is called VS Code. It's an IDE, which is a Python IDE, which is like for the developers, people write code here in a simple language. There is a section I've opened called readme.md, which is the actually telling you the steps to execute this whole code. And then you can make it, this is like a description of this whole, the agent, like what does it do. The repository contains Streamlit app, detects anomalies in daily payment transaction data, so on and so forth. It's purely descriptive. You can go there, you can read about this information, like what are the features. Next file, which is important for us, is environment file, which is where the OpenAI key, you can see this is the key that Malti was talking about, right? We have to purchase that key. This is the key that gets generated when you go to OpenAI, load the amount there, let's say $10, $5, whatever amount that you want to load. They provide you an API key. This is the API key that we access. That's the second important section. The third important section is here, if you see LangChain agent. Now, this is the LangChain framework that I'm talking about. Again, let's not, like, if you're not familiar with this, don't worry about this. But the idea is LangChain, I'll explain it as in the form of package. It's a Python package. You can see from LangChain, LLMs.OpenAI, import OpenAI. So you're calling the OpenAI LLM model. Here, I am calling actually one of the model. I'll just show you that. Here, so this is the OpenAI model. By default, it calls, I think, OpenAI 3.5 Turbo model. You can change the model. You can pass the model name here, and you can call specific model here. Right now, I think it's calling OpenAI 3.5 Turbo. We can call reasoning models, all their, like, how to call that model is exactly information available on OpenAI's website. You can just call that model name here. It will actually call that. So the idea is that, so then we are calling certain packages here, LangChain.prompt, which is prompt template, which is my prompt that will take. So then prompt template comes here. You can see where you can customize your prompts. So for example, prompt template this. So I'm initiating this prompt template function, which actually takes the, if you read this, you are anomaly detection expert. Given the following summary of transaction data, the data summary that you provide, identify any anomalies in the data based on the transaction volume metric. Assume anomalies and transactions that are significantly higher than the norm. So I'm technically not defining any kind of logic here. I'm just telling the LM to, like, they're unusually high or low, right? Actually, it should be lower as well. I did not define that, but unusually high and low is something can be an anomaly. Please identify that. And once you identify that, provide me a summary table in the text form, listing the transaction ID, date, and transaction volume, and also provide me insights about the identified anomalies after the summary table. Right? It's a simple instruction, the prompt that I'm defining. And then you can see get summary, there are some packages that we are running. So detect anomalies locally. You can also run it locally. Another logic that I've called here is you can actually build a logic here, which is Z-score logic, which I mentioned. If it goes beyond certain threshold, you can call this also, let's say. So there are two ways to generate the anomalies. Then you can generate a line chart, which I wanted an output. Okay, once you identify the anomaly, create a line chart on the data that you have, and on that line chart, generate insights, right? You can see use LLM to generate insight. This function does that. So you can see it's calling the prompt template again, and then these are prompt. You are an anomaly detection expert. Based on the following summary of transaction data summary, please provide one key insight I want on what these anomalies indicate, one recommendation on how to address them, one suggestion on how user should utilize these findings, so on and so forth, right? You can always customize it. You can always add comment here and it'll work. It'll consider your comments there, right? Then generate a PPT also. So I'm calling another function, okay, generate a PPT and add these section to PPT. Of course, it's not a nice PPT that just like, listed few steps here, but you can always make it nicer in terms of like what output you want, how do you want to do it, so on and so forth. It will generate PPT also. And then that's where the LangChain agent, which means the chain, you can see here, right? So just tying that back to our, chain here. So there is an LLM you're calling, there is a prompt that you're calling, there is instead of agent, we have a PPT and we have a chart agents, those two like functions we are calling here, and chaining everything. How that chaining everything is happening is in the last file called app.py, which is application. So now you're running this application, you're calling this LangChain agent, anomaly detection agent. That is a function. So LangChain agent you're calling here. And again, you can see create PPT function I'm calling. And then second one is here you can see I'm referring to the agent here. So uploaded file. So this is where like I upload the file anomaly detection agent, the file uploader, which is the type CSV file I am uploading. And then accordingly, it is calling the anomaly detection agent here, line number 303. Right? Initiate the anomaly. So it is initiating that LangChain agent for anomaly detection. And the LangChain agent is what? Basically, so this is for the output that we want. So this section, right? And this is the chain. And this chain is actually calling. So you only call this chain at here. You only call this chain. This chain will automatically call wherever, whichever agent or whichever tool to be called. So that's how the flow works, the process works. I hope this is clear. So these are three main files that we refer to. And you will be definitely building this. So what I'll do now is let me run this. So first, there's already a session running. I'll kill this session. And now let me run this app. So to run this app, the README file is there. You can read that. But basically, you are actually running a Streamlit run application.py. And if you do that, it'll open you can see the app here. I have not deployed it. You can deploy it also, which means that it'll become production ready, or you can host it wherever you want for the external customers. And now you browse file. There is a data. Let me show you the data first. There is a data that I have taken. We open it in the CSV. So it's a very simple data set I have taken, for example, and then you can see there is a transaction ID, there is a date, and there is a transaction volume. Right? You see there are few values which are extremely large, like 429, 329, then suddenly it becomes 14,000. So deliberately, like idea is to add anomalies in this data. And there are, I think, 100 records we have here. Yeah, 100 records we have here in this data. So if I simply create a chart, for example, insert a line chart here, recommended chart. So this is the chart. You can see based on the date, you have mostly the records lie here, like between 0 to, let's say, 500, right? Or 200, 300. There are few data points which are extremely like, far away from the usual data points. And these are typically the anomalies, right? The idea is to identify them through the agent, right? So, so now what I'll do is I'll upload that file in the tool there, here. So now it's asking me to drag and drop file, upload your CSV file. I'm uploading it here. And now you see it automatically the data preview, top 5 records it is showing. It automatically identify the anomalies, right? And then gave me the output here. So let's say, for example, somebody hosted a chatbot. This is like a chatbot. You got an anomaly detection agent chatbot. You just upload your file. It will identify the anomalies in the file automatically on its own. You don't have to do anything here. You can pass prompts also. But right now I did not enable that capability. But you can see here anomaly detection via LLM. So it identified top 5 anomalies in the data. Not only that, it is generating the insights here. You can see, and this I you remember I gave the prompt there, if you LangChain agent, right? So generate insights based on this is purely generated by the LLM. Now this can be wrong, this can be right. We have to, because so far LLMs are not 100% accurate. So what we do is we actually go and check that, okay, whether these are correct or not. For example, you say showing that there is a maximum transaction volume of 18,202, which is like the transaction happened on 1st of January 2020. Transaction ID is 12345. So and so, with the mean of this and the standard 75 percentile is this, basically giving a statistical summary, right? So there's one anomaly detection process. There's another, you remember, local, like logic based, right? Fallback option. Let's say if this doesn't run, then there's a Z core based option, which is this one, right? So on transaction ID 4, 5th of January 2025, there's an anomaly transaction volume of 1464. And you see the chart is also created here. So there are two ways that it is detecting the anomalies. One is purely LLM based, and one is on the rule based, the rule engine, that modeling part. So model becomes a part of this agent, right? And then Z score, it is calculating and highlighting the rows. Not only that, it's generating the insight based on this charts also. You can see similarly insights are being generated, and recommendation also it is providing. One possible way to address these anomalies is to set the threshold for acceptable transaction amount and flag any transaction that exceed this threshold for further investigation. So it is recommending. Then also it is generating a PPT. Again, it's a rough PPT. I did not, templatize it properly, but we can do that. We can generate a template. It'll actually generate a template based on that. And then what happens? It generated this anomaly report, and you can see anomaly report, a brief summary of anomaly detected, highlights, recommendations, right? So again, it's a very high level, but imagine that kind of work it is, it has taken to generate the end-to-end PPT, right? So this is mostly what we do is we identify the anomaly based on this fallback option, and then we take this chart, we create the PPT, write the insights, right? So now it is doing, the agent is doing that with a single prompt, right? Generating the PPT, you can always like take these pictures, take these images, and make the PPTs always be, better in terms of templatize it properly. And your agent generates, identify the anomaly, and then generate reports, and you can use the report and present it to customers, let's say. And then over the period of time, as I already told you how to make it better, you pass this context, let's say insight, right? So how do you generate that feedback loop? Just to give you that example again. So let's say you're not finding this, these are LLM based insight, right? You're not finding this insight correctly. You want to add something else. You can always mention, go back to the prompt, right? Go to your LangChain agent, go to the prompt, that your prompt template that you have. And you can always mention that, okay, this, here you can add a line that I do not want, this, the insights, or no, let's say I do want at least, let's say 10 insights on my data, and then on my data, and then it will, right now I'll not run this, but it'll ideally it should run this. Maybe let me try if it generates or not. Let me kill that last app and run it again. So this is basically fine tuning. You can see it's detecting now. Let's see if it takes that. See, 10 anomalies it generated. So it's basically, it has taken the summary table insights, or now 10 anomalies it has detected from the data, right? So like that, you can play with the prompt and then, generate the outcome like that. So this is how an agent works, high level again. We'll go into more details, more to share in the course, but this is an example of a live agent detecting the anomalies based on the customized prompt that you have.
Yep. Thank you, Aniket. I think that was a fantastic demo that we could squeeze in like 20, 25 minutes.
But,
really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to take a couple of questions. There is a question from Shruti which says, what is the difference between, I would love for you to answer, you can answer much more in detail. How is RAG different from MCP, given that MCP is again memory optimization along with LLM? Do you want to take that?
So MCP has nothing to do with the LLMs. So MCP is basically a server, a standardized format to call the tools, right? So it's, you can think of as like another version of a standardized APIs that we have. These are now MCPs, model context protocols. So they are in a way like on top of the APIs. Now we'll be building MCPs also, MCP servers also. So the idea is that when you want to call multiple tools, right now every tool might have a different API configuration, standard, their own, like, let's say you want to access, let's say, a vector database, in your LLM, that vector database will have a different way of of configuring the APIs. You have to follow those configuration to call that API. MCP standardize that. Even if you want to, let's say, call 10 different APIs, you can standardize them. Now it's MCP server's responsibility technically to get you that API response. So you are in a way saving your time, right? Rather than getting into this configurations manually details, you're now using MCP servers to access those APIs. RAG is, as I said, it's a technique. It's a part of, you can say that the AI or Gen AI space, where you want to make sure that LLMs are factual in their answers. So use RAG technique to get to the factual answers.
Yeah. Thanks, Aniket. Beena had a question that for the agent that you showed, how
Yeah.
do you ensure the reliability of the insights?
Yes. So we can't. The reason is because one is that LLMs are not 100% accurate so far, as of now, right? So that's the caveat as of now with LLMs. Everybody's experimenting that, but models are becoming better and better. So still models can hallucinate. The answers can be though there are two parts. One is inconsistency and one is hallucination. So inconsistency can be two types. One, how do you check inconsistency? One is that if you change a small thing in the prompt and the output completely changes, that's one inconsistency. Second is that you ask the same prompt and output changes every time. So that's a part of testing that you do. So you make sure that LLMs do not do that. So there are few hacks people do use in the prompt itself. Okay, do not be consistent in your answer like that, or always answer in this sample text that you have. So you can always provide a sample text in your prompt. I have another agent where I've actually given a sample query to generate the query based on that, right? So I'm asking specifically LLM to generate the query based on this step. So that brings the consistency part, right? So hallucinations, again, we can't control the 98%, 2% example that I gave, right? That's a part of hallucination technically in a way, right? So then you make it better by using techniques like RAG and fine tuning. Fine tuning is you customize the model, you fine tune the model on a pre-trained LLM. So that is a way to reduce the hallucinations, right? So both of them are part of testing, lot of testing. So it depends upon the application that we are using. So it can take time also to do fine tuning and other things. But yes, like it's an as of now, no LLM can be 100% accurate. We have to experiment this iteratively. They become better and better. As the models are becoming better, we have less worry now. But initially, when it came, it was actually a lot of issues were there. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Thanks, Aniket.
Thank you.
So I hope most of you found this masterclass useful. We really packed up, I think, a lot of wisdom, a lot of content, a lot of this which we are going to be using as part of our workshop. Just kind of flashing the workshop details again. Swati, do you want to add anything more?
Malti, this is the previous session that is being flashed with Radhika? Yeah. Probably the next.
Not the right thing coming up. Wait, okay, let me try again. Oh, I've been flashing the screen for
some time. No, it's fine.
okay.
I think it was the wrong QR code if people would have tried to.
Okay, is this okay?
This is the correct, correct.
Okay.
No, just I think we called this out in the beginning as well for people who might have joined later on. So want to call out that this is the workshop. Detailed workshop we'll be conducting in person in Bangalore on 19th and 20th April. So if you're interested to attend this workshop, we are also offering a discount code which will be valid till tomorrow, going at 14,999. This is the QR code, and then Malti has been sharing the link as well in the chat. So feel free to enroll. If you have questions, reach out to us on this email ID. Happy to answer any questions. Malti, if you want to quickly show the detailed agenda of the workshop for folks.
Sure.
The next one, yeah. If you want to talk for over this, like what the detailed agenda is for people who might have joined later on.
Yeah. So as we were saying, I mean, the idea is that we have in fact kind of tried to, pepper up with the most valuable use cases. Given that a PM is to, not only look at the technology aspect of it, but more from a business perspective, the right use cases, the right, the viability of the use case. So, and given all three of us come with product background, and we all are right now very hands-on, deep into building some of these products. So the idea is that how do we translate our learnings, our knowledge into this, that is kind of going in designing this particular course. And you can see that it kind of covers not only the business aspect of it, but we are also trying to go more deeper by doing a product teardown of a use case where we kind of go back and a lot of things, for example, that Aniket covered today, we try to look at multiple variation of it where you use a RAG, where you have your own proprietary documents or information versus looking at some of the LLM-based free available agents used. One thing which I probably want to also add was that while today's session was primarily done using LangChain, where a lot of these agents are being called with the code snippet, in the training we are also be using LangGraph, where it could be more drag and drop. So we will have the hands-on exercises both with LangChain and also with LangGraph, where people can do drag and drop and see how they can use some of the agents available. So the course is kind of going to cover the business aspect of it, the design aspect of it, the prototyping aspect of it, and of course, building an actual agent. And we would love for the participants who will be participating in the workshop to come with their use cases, which could add a lot of, real-time dimensions to the conversations in the class. So this is going to happen on 19th and 20th April. Each day we would be doing for 4 hours. And tentatively, the setup is going to be somewhere in Koramangala. For all the participants who register, we are updating with them with all the details. And as Swati was mentioning, we have a special QR code link, a discount of 10%, which is valid only till end of the day tomorrow. You can take the QR code from here. Post the session, Swati or I will also send out this link. So for the folks who would like to join, and yeah, happy to take any questions. Are there any questions? Oh, sorry, Akshat. We will miss having you around. But in case you have any question, feel free to write to us at hello@Women in Product India, and Swati and I will get back to you. And as I mentioned earlier, the recording will be available on the on our YouTube channel that we had shared earlier. And Python knowledge mandatory, no beauty, that is not mandatory. As we said, we have kept the scenario very, very relevant to the product managers. So keeping the viability, the feasibility aspect, so you don't need to know Python. If you know, it's an added advantage. But as I said, we will be using both LangGraph and LangChain. You can do both with more kind of a development kit, which will be available. Not needed. Any other question that we may take?
I think there's a question if Python knowledge mandatory or something. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, we don't need this. Yeah. So Shruti has a question that, so apart from the code snippet also to be created by the PM. So Shruti, as I said earlier, the demo that Aniket was talking, we were using LangChain over there. Now, you will know that even in the PMs, we all come from very diverse spectrum, right? There are people who are very hands-on from a code perspective. There are folks. So we will be using both LangChain as well as LangGraph, where LangGraph or some of the other tools that you use, it is kind of more drag and drop, versus when you do with a LangChain, you are kind of writing the agent, calling the snippets. So it will be a combination of both that will be covered as part of the course.
Yeah, just to add that, I think the question is coming again and again. So no technical knowledge is required here, neither Python nor the LangChain, knowledge. The idea was to give you a gist of it, like what exactly works in the backend, not exactly the code flow, right? So how it will help is to understand the backend is because whenever you see that you identify a use case, you understand the complexity of the use case. It will help you to understand the effort estimation and everything as a PM. So that thing that we'll discuss, in detail in the course, let's say. But practice will be on the low code, no code tools. Like example, LangGraph is one, N8N is one, right? How to set up those drag and drop. So the same agent that I showed, you can actually build via no code tool as well. Right? So no code tool has its own limitations, etc. But those things we'll talk about that. But the idea is same agent can be built using low code, no code. There you will be practicing. Like we'll be using N8N or LangGraph and drag and drop, like how you can build an anomaly detection agent or data analysis agent, so and so. So that will come in the course.
Correct. I know we are 6 minutes over the time. Thank you, Dolly, for offering it in Delhi. But right now, yeah, we are kind of focusing to do this in Bangalore, and based on how many folks are there, we might decide to do it in other cities. Or we might just come up with something online. Oh, yes. So, okay. So that is one of the very important aspects that post the session, we will have a, so both Swati and I run our own product communities. She runs Women in Product. I run the Spark product management community. But apart from that, since we will have about 30 people in the room, Vedula, we are also going to continue to have that as a WhatsApp group and as part of the larger community where, there is continuous learning, resources, tools, discussions, use cases, which will be constantly be discussed for continuous growth. It's not like, you attend the training and, you are not connected with others. So there will be an expanded community available, which you can continue to network with and exchange your learnings with the entire class, post the training as well.
And to add to that, Malti, like if folks who attended the workshop, they are building something on their own after it, that community is for that, to help them continue on that path, like from instructors and fellow attendees.
Exactly. And we will also have one of our one agentic AI product, which we will be demoing during the course, and you will have some free credits. We are just keeping that as a surprise for the class, but there will be credits, and it is something which is very, very valuable for the product managers.
Yeah, across the life cycle, product life cycle.
Yeah, and free credits for that tool will be available. Are there any other questions? We can probably stay back for around a couple of minutes. If not, you know where to find us. Hello at Women in Product India. Highly recommend all of you to make use of the time-bound offer that we have, where we have given a discount of 10%. Would love to see all of you in the class. All right.
Thank you. Thanks, Aniket. Wonderful session. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.